they were in jail after the trial. Put in cell. Anyway, I'm going to talk about some of the constitutional rights that were violated in this case. I just want broad strokes here on kind of key things that happened. In 2005, a three-judge panel of the Federal Appeals Court in Atlanta ruled that the defendants had been denied a fair trial in Miami. They wrote a, what's it called, not a brief, but a decision, like a 93-page decision that talked about the pervasive, what they call pervasive community prejudice in the Miami area, the government's use of inflammatory statements during the trial, and what they call the perfect storm created by negative pre-trial publicity, which is another point I'm going to come to in a few minutes, because we didn't know at the time that the government, the U.S. government, had paid journalists to write scurrilous articles against the so-called spy network. So this is a big deal, 2005. The court overturned the convictions. They overturned the sentences and ordered a new trial in 2005. Big deal. 1 year later, after the U.S. government demanded a review, 12 justices of the same appeals court, but two of the judges dissenting, reversed the ruling and upheld the convictions. A couple years later, in June 2008, after a series of hearings, the appeals court ruled that the penalties handed down, 3 of the 5 of the Cuban Five, exceeded federal sentencing guidelines. So I mentioned before, Ramón Labañino was given life, was reduced to 30 years. He was actually given life plus like 20 years or something like that, 18 years. And then Antonio Guerrero had life plus many years. Was reduced to 21 years and 10 months. And Fernando from 19-year sentence to 17 and 9 months. So this was very important. Another crack in the case. The organizations that are fighting to free the Cuban Five and the lawyers, with support from around the world, really pushed hard after this to get the Supreme Court of the United States to take this case. Supreme Court, based on what I know, where you have like a court that rules one way and then it gets overturned, and then there's dissent within that overturning. That's a conflicted thing going on. Those are the kind of things that the Supreme Court should take. There was disagreement. They declined to take the case. They didn't say anything. One thing to keep in mind is the argument put forward by the Obama administration was by someone who's on the Supreme Court right now, Elena Kagan. Before she was put on the Supreme Court, she was a Solicitor General. So that's worth thinking about. Another thing about the appeal of the case to the Supreme Court was it included the unprecedented 12 friend of the court briefs from legal scholars and associations. It's contained in this little booklet here, which you can read. My copy's all marked up, but I don't think I have other copies here. Another key development in the case, of course, is what happened this October with the release of René González. He served his entire, as I mentioned before, his sentence and was released in Florida. He's a U.S. citizen. He's a U.S. citizen and a Cuban citizen. He was born in Chicago, and they're making him serve his 3-year supervised release. So one of the things that we're working on is fighting to win his right to go back to Cuba. It's one of the focuses of our work. There's a lot more to say on this development. The regular appeals, there's been a lot of appeals over the years, now been closed. Each of the 5 has filed habeas corpus motions before a federal court in Miami. The judge that is in charge there in Miami is the same judge from the beginning, Joan Leonard, and she was appointed by former President Clinton. But all of them are asking for a hearing to present new evidence that's come to light since the convictions. And this is what I mentioned before: U.S. government paying journalists, Radio Marti, TV Marti, all kinds of money given to them. We're still trying to get through the Freedom of Information Act there's more that we don't know about how much money was spent, how many journalists, but it was a big operation. So that's pending. The fight for their freedom and their what you could describe as their unbending courage, these 5, and dignity has gained them broad, ever-growing support worldwide, and it's gained them a lot of support in the prisons they've been in. If you look at the support they've gotten around the world, it includes like bar associations, parliamentarians from across Europe and Latin America. It includes the entire Mexican Senate. At the UN, it includes the working group on arbitrary detention that did a whole report on this. There's more support from trade unions, like having Bernie Hess speak from the UFCW at the opening here on Sunday was important. Women's organizations, Cuban Five solidarity organizations, which was located here. There's been 10 Nobel Peace Prize winners who've added their voices to the case. And then there's all kinds of, this is growing. There's a new organization that moves on the West Coast, Hollywood,